Kicking off the third year of his single five-year term, President Moon Jae-in held his first press conference of 2019. And we now connect our Blue House correspondent Hwang Hojun, who's at the Blue House Press Center. So Hojun, let's start with President Moon addressing the nation at the beginning of the event.
So, Jiyoon, as we expected, the main focus today was on the nation's economy. President Moon first defended his administration's economic policy direction, in spite of many believing South Korea's economy is slowing down. He first underscored how the nation reached the $600 billion mark in exports for the first time in its history, and that the government ushered in an era of $30,000 US dollars per capita income. He stressed his administration has pursued innovative growth and a fair economy by helping to increase real household income across the board and decrease living costs. However, President Moon also noted that there were areas, especially job reports, that have not lived up to people's expectations. He emphasized, however, such hardships are the proof that a people-centered economy is needed. Take a listen.
경제 정책의 변화는 분명 두려운 일입니다. 시간이 걸리고 논란이 있을 수 있습니다. 그러나 반드시 가야 할 길입니다. 부족한 부분을 충분히 보완하면서 반드시 혁신적 포용 국가를 이루어내겠습니다.
President Moon insisted that the government's objective for 2019 is to make the people clearly see the signs in their everyday lives that the administration's economic policy is heading in the right direction. At the end of the speech, President Moon also pledged to continue efforts to further improve inter-Korean relations and to cooperate with the international community to resolve international sanctions against Pyongyang for its past nuclear and missile provocations.
평화도, 혁신 성장도, 포용 국가도 우리는 이뤄낼 것입니다. 감사합니다.
So Hojun, a nearly 80-minute-long Q&A session followed President Moon's statement, and the president himself conducted the session.
You're absolutely right. The session just ended moments ago, and it was completely unscripted, completely unrehearsed. President Moon did not take any questions in advance. He basically randomly picked reporters raising their hands. And one of the most notable moments was at the beginning of the Q&A, when the questions focused on the administration's foreign policy, especially regarding North Korea. It was here President Moon confirmed North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's concept of, quote, complete denuclearization is in sync with that of the international community, especially the U.S. and U.S. President Donald Trump, as well as China, Russia, and President Moon himself. When asked about whether the status of U.S. troops stationed in Korea would change following a potential declaration of the end of the Korean War, President Moon said that Kim, in fact, acknowledges that the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the peace declaration are not related to the status of the U.S. forces in Korea at all. He said that decision is entirely up to Seoul and Washington. He also went more in depth of the significance of making a more inclusive and fair economy and touched on issues such as the nation's gender equality gap and Seoul's relations with Japan. We'll bring you more updates throughout the day. Jiyoon.